Sam. All right, let's start. Let's jump right off the bat here. So a lot of the narratives from week 1 to week 2, I feel like, have changed, and I'm kind of curious, right? How you weigh, and I want to start with the sort of explosive plays versus the methodical offense that we saw against Cincinnati versus what we saw in Akron, right? Obviously, you've got opponent-dependent situations here, and context matters. But how do you weigh sort of the explosiveness we saw in week 2 versus the opponent that they saw in week 1 versus week 2 versus kind of what we've seen across college football with top 25 teams in particular struggling with, the South Carolina States or the Troys or the whoever else in the world?
Yeah, and there's a lot in that question.
There is, yeah. So feel free to expand however you want.
What I would say if I'm kind of examining it is, I do think Nebraska played closer to its standard in week 2, and the standard obviously is the standard irrespective of the opponent, and so I think they played probably a little closer to that in week 2, to what they would hope. And I understand that Rule thought they still played pretty well in week 1. I thought they played very, very well on Saturday night, and arguably that's the most dominant Nebraska win in a long time. So, you'll take that. You'll take it, even if you're playing Akron. You want to play at a high level, and I thought for the most part they did. There are a lot of games right now where, to bring Nebraska volleyball into it, Danny Busboom Kelly was very honest about she didn't think her team quite played as well as it could on Friday night, for example. They still won. They swept Wright State. But she was pretty honest yesterday and she said, usually when you turn on the film, it's better than you thought. And in this case, it was not. But the players also acknowledged that, and they knew it, and they came out and played better yesterday. But I think that happens when you have a lot of top name teams that I think to some degree are probably more, what's the right word, slightly motivated by the opponents than they used to be. I don't know that that's the case in Nebraska volleyball's case. She said it was more about nerves and being an advantage the first time. But I think in football, that does happen sometimes where, South Carolina's playing South Carolina State and they don't play very well, or Clemson just played really poorly for a long time against Troy. And, sometimes that's after a letdown, after you've played a really big opponent and now you're playing a different one, and it's kind of a sandwich game because Clemson has a big game this week too. So, I think Nebraska coming home, having an opportunity to clear that bench. I think players are motivated to play for each other. I think they all wanted to see some of these guys get in the game, and so I think they wanted to do what they could. Akron helped. Akron did play very well, even for Akron standard, I'm sure. I think
knock it off, Sam. Don't do that.
So it's it was a good night, and I think Nebraska should be pleased with where it was. You come back and you're going to play a Houston Christian team that is probably more similar to Akron than Nebraska. So you have to maintain that standard and not look ahead, because the following week is a really big game against a really big name team, and obviously everybody's going to be excited for that one. So Nebraska has to kind of stick to its process this week and get better. I'm sure there's things they're going to see on film that they're going to be like, yeah, we can do that better, differently. But I thought they played pretty well on Saturday night. It really did.
So, Sam, let me ask you this as kind of through 2 weeks, right? We saw the offense operate in a couple different ways. And so I'm curious what you think is the most translatable when they get to the Michigans and the Big Ten schedules of the world. Do you think it's the kind of, hey, we can take what the defense gives us and have drives that sustain 10, 12, 14 plays to score that way? Or, hey, we can get these chunk plays. I guess the question is, long-term during the course of the season, how do you think their scoring drives will look? More like against Cincinnati or more like Akron?
I think you have to blend them. I think you do have to get some explosive plays along the way to win in the Big Ten, and I do think Nebraska probably hasn't shown all the things they have in the bag of tricks, and I'm sure they've got other plays that they can show. Akron really could not defend a basic play, a run play on Saturday night, and Nebraska may have been able to run that play 50 times. It gained 500 yards. I don't know. I mean, they gained 47, 36, 28, 10. They didn't run it that many times. And they gained big yards almost every time they ran it. So I don't know that you're going to have that kind of level of success against Big Ten teams. I think they'll probably handle that play a little bit differently. But I think you have to be able to drive the football, convert on third down. I thought Dillon did a good job of that. I also thought he made a couple of throws in the game that were the kind of throws you got to make to beat a Michigan. On the run, throwing it to the corner of the end zone, really good throw there. Some really good throws over the middle. Hitting receivers in stride. I thought the throw to Clint Clark was good. Thought Barney did a good job of adjusting on the one deep throw. That could have been a touchdown if it's kind of thrown out in front of him, but it was, I don't know, the wind might have been playing with that one a little bit. So I think you got to do both. And anytime you can hit explosive runs, that's great. And so Nebraska had, I don't know, they probably had 5 of those. And, I'm sure that's a really good number for them. Probably more than 5, because I think they view an explosive run as like 12 yards. So I think they had 5 of those. And you want to find a way. Michigan hit one against Oklahoma. Michigan's offense really struggled against Oklahoma for much of the night, but they hit a 75-yarder. And you got to do that sometimes against a really good team. You got to hit a big run and put points on the board that way.
Yeah, it's not often you'll see, and EJ hit one against Akron with a free runner hitter. Haynes hit it with 2 for Oklahoma. So I know Oklahoma's probably pretty pissed they gave that up on the cutback, but great players do make great plays. Let me ask you something though. Because we went through this all the hand-wringing about chunk plays, and I listened back and forth to you and Dillon kind of going through the sequence of patience last week and this week, and you and I have talked about, hey, the next step is, when we throw guys open and trust and kind of gripping and ripping, all the things that we've talked about. As the season wears on, you said it's probably got to be a little bit of both. Have you seen enough or you think Nebraska has good enough players where I think to myself as a quarterback, my guy is better than your guy. Here it is. Like, is that the next phase for you when you want to talk about the evolution of Dillon's potential greatness?
Yeah, I think that Nebraska's players are good enough.
I kind of feel really comfortable with them on, like, Key and those guys are really good.
Yeah, I think they've shown up in the first 2 games. Obviously, I'm sure Dane Key would like to have a few more targets. I don't know that he's been open as much as Hunter has.
And sometimes defenses dictate that too, Sam. I mean, they shared it with 10 guys last week, right? Like, sometimes defenses are going to take away your number 1 target.
They are. So, I think trust is really important, and I think it's a two-way street. I think that the quarterback has to learn to trust his players, and then those players have to gain his trust. And there's a little bit of, again, it's a two-way street there. Like, sometimes you got to throw a ball into a tight spot, even if you're absolutely not sure that the guy's going to make a play, because you got to give him a chance to make a play. And I think Dillon's willing to do that.
The ball he threw to Key is about as good a throw as you're going to see at any level at any time.
Yeah.
I mean, the throw was incredible.
It was incredible. And it's the kind of plays. Now, I understand what Rule's talking about. When he says, it's not about, I want him to make quarterback plays. I totally understand what Rule's talking about. And he's right, On the flip side of the coin, Raiola's throw there is the kind of throw that you need to win big games.
Yep.
Because those are the windows that you're going to have when you play Penn State or Michigan or USC. And USC is good. Now, their defense may not be really good, but they're good. They're very good. And they can score.
It sounds.
So
they look just like vintage Lincoln Riley, right? Like, they'll be explosive on offense, but you're going to wonder if they're just going to get enough stops.
Correct. They're going to play Purdue this weekend, and they're going to play Michigan State, and I think they're going to play Illinois. And I think they're going to be 5-0 after they're done with that. And Illinois is a pretty good team. I was more impressed with them this week than I have been in a while. But I think they're going to be 5-0. And at any rate, you're going to need plays to beat a team like USC. USC is not going to come in and just say, well, we're going to score 3. No. So you're going to have to score points, I think, to win some of these games. Not all of them. Maryland and Northwestern clearly have better defenses than they have offenses. But you're going to have to score. You're going to have to score some points. And so Dylan's going to have to make those plays. And they know that, and I think he's ready to make those plays. So yeah, he'll have to trust, and they'll have to gain his trust. And I think that's a work in progress. I think that's going to take another step this week, and then they're just going to have to roll the ball out and play their very best against Michigan. I think they can beat Michigan. I do. So I think they've just got to go into that game and say, you know what, we got the better quarterback today, and I think they will on that day. 2 years, I don't know, but today I think they will. And we got the better team. We got the home field advantage, and we're not gonna back down from Michigan. We're gonna stand chin to chin with them, and we're gonna knock them back and play that way. And so I think all those things are gaining for Dylan, and I think he's off to a very good start this year.
Sam, I want to switch over to the defensive side of the ball. Obviously, Nebraska played a ton of different guys. We saw some guys pop that we hadn't really seen before. Cade Petchock obviously comes to mind with the way he played. What did you see on the defense I've been super impressed with the secondary. You got 2 straight games not giving up 100 yards passing, which is hard to do against literally anyone. What have you taken away from the defense so far this year?
Well, that they're going to be really good. I think they're pretty good now. I think, again, the trajectory for the defense is over the next 2 or 3 years is really, really good. They're young in a lot of spots. They're older in the secondary, but they're young in a lot of spots. I think they're athletic. I think they're learning how to play some of these positions. They're learning how to play the positions and learning how to do it within the framework of John Butler's defense, which is not just, hey, go forward and take up a guy and try to make a play. Like they're doing some different stuff up front. So I think you can like a lot of it. I think they've been pretty good so far. Their pass defense has been really good. Akron dropped some passes, they did, and so that's an.
Can I say something about that though? Casey, BMAC, and I were talking about this off air during the broadcast, and I think we have to sometimes be careful using the term drop, right? Because I get it. There's balls that you want them to catch, and I'm not going to fight you over that. Sammy Mack, I'm saying, you get about 96, 97 mile an hour on the jugs, and you're throwing it down a hallway with a guy on you. I don't know if those are drops as much as I'd like to see my guys catch that, because they're heaters, and from their vantage point, field level, it's vastly different than what we see from above. Right, you watched the ball that Josh Allen threw over Alexander's head yesterday. Mm-hmm. On television, it looks open. From where Josh Allen throws it, it's like, holy smokes, that is a ridiculously sick throw. You know what I mean?
Yes, absolutely, I do. And Nebraska's pass defense creates some of those drops, because a lot of times the guys don't know where they're at and where the other defenders are at and all those things. I would just say that I actually thought the Akron quarterback threw a couple passes where they needed to be in order to not be intercepted, and, they weren't caught. I don't know that the Akron quarterback played that poorly.
Yeah,
I think he did.
Finley threw the ball better than the results yielded.
Yeah. He mostly kept it out of harm's way. And so, at any rate, I think Nebraska's pass defense is confusing to opposing quarterbacks so far.
Completely agree.
I think there's not if there is a guy open deep, I don't know that they're deciphering that in the handful of seconds that they have back there. The pass rush has been, you don't always know where it's coming from. So I think that's a good confusing element.
Yeah, I think that absolutely matters, right? When Nebraska was so much movement and stemming late, it's like That messes with a quarterback settling in on the dropbacks.
Right. No question. And so I don't really have much to say about the defense after that game other than, if you can't run the ball or you get into a situation where running the ball is not going to help you very much, you're going to have a hard time moving the ball against Nebraska. Now, again, some of these teams are going to try to run the ball. So Michigan and Michigan State. I think, Michigan State will come in and try to run with its quarterback, I would guess. Some of these other teams will try to do the same. So, I think Nebraska's defense is going to be very hard to crack from a pass perspective. But I do think teams will try to run the ball on. And we'll see how that goes in subsequent weeks. I don't know what Houston Christian will be able to accomplish, but we'll see. I think Nebraska's defense is good now and has the potential to be great. I think Rule and Butler and Snow and all those folks, they know what they're doing, and they've got things in a really good spot.
Sam, speaking of Houston Christian, what are you hoping to see this week that will let you know that, hey, another step of progress has been made, right? Like, obviously they got –
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, that's a great question.
It's okay. It's an okay question.
You could win the game 54-10 and say, well, did we do? I think building on what they did, continuing to run the ball, getting an opportunity for guys to play, execution. Hey, more catch and run stuff. I thought Nebraska's running backs and receivers did a great job of catching the ball and making guys miss or simply breaking out of tackles. Isaiah Mosey broke out of tackles. They were not, he just ran out of them. That kind of stuff is really good. Getting an opportunity for TJ Lateef to get in there and play more. I thought he looked really good and not surprising with him. He played a high level of high school ball and has done nothing but behind the scenes, I think, done nothing but show that he's good in a lot of ways for a true freshman. He is not perfect by any means. Rule kind of mentioned the thing about making sure he was calling the plays right, but he's done a really nice job so far getting there, and I think they've got a guy that could go out and he led 3 touchdown drives, so that's pretty good, and he'll probably get an opportunity again on Saturday. So building on that. I don't know. Then they return a kickoff beyond the 25. I guess they could do that. They probably will.
Man,
they probably will.
My man, and I'm a big Kenny guy because he's team first, so I always love people like that. But he missed a couple of holes where I was like, ooh,
and you would know.
Come on, Kenny. Come on, Kenny.
You know. Because you used to do that.
Yeah.
You were as good as anybody at it. And they've missed a couple in the first couple games.
I was like, ooh, they got it blocked right. Let's go, baby.
I know.
Oh, come on.
I know. And that's a hard position to play.
It really is.
The way that,
do you know why, though? Can I just tell you this? I love the fact that you recognize this, Sam, because you have to do it a little bit to get a feel.
Yeah.
It's not – you just don't get out of the rack and can return punts and kickoffs.
Yeah.
So in his defense – it's hard to see live because you don't love replicating it live in practice. But they're going to roll tape, and they did it. They could have done it last week. He should have creased Cincinnati.
Yeah.
And this week he just needs maybe another rep or two. But they are blocking that thing ridiculously well.
Yeah.
I mean, I could see it popping.
Can I just? I mean, I know you said you have to do a little bit. Can I just see Mosey back there? Can I see Mosey back there?
I want to just see him and Caleb flip spots.
I'm fine with that too. I've seen Caleb return kicks in high school. I'm down with that. I'm
but
totally fine.
He does do a good job blocking, so he's fine where he is. Use Mosey.
I would love to see Mosey try and break tackles like that on kickoff.
And to that point, Sam, because I do think blowout wins build programs because young guys get to play. Nebraska stayed on the gas. You see good young players, older players cheer for them. And they know that they're going to be good. Mm-hmm. There needs to be like this healthy fear that they could at some
come
point
get
take
me.
their job.
Yeah.
Right. Like this is what this is how it was supposed to go. Right. This is what it was like when I was playing. And I hate being like that, but it does matter, right? You want guys to not only be able to cheer for guys at their position, but also know, like, dang, these young bucks can play. What will it take, do you think, Sam, to go from having bodies at a position to where you feel like they have actual depth?
Well, I think they have depth at several positions. I think.
Is it too soon? Because
yeah.
I'm mad. I want people to understand that they have depth at running back. Is it too soon to say that they have depth at running back? Do we need to see more against better teams? Or can you see the potential?
I can see the potential. Yeah. I mean, I think.
I mean, does it look
think,
like there's a great disparity between EJ, Mackay, and Mosey in terms of talent?
And well, yeah.
Well, Ives played well too.
In talent, I don't know.
Oh,
look,
you pooper! What do you mean you don't like? What do you mean? What are we contemplating?
Emmett Johnson has a really good skill.
You know what his best skill is? He is
making a guy miss.
He is that's up there. That's the easy one to see. His patience. He knows how to set things up. It is an underappreciated skill to be able to set things up in front of you. He's really good at that. Because you can beat blocks.
Yeah, you can overrun them.
You know what I mean? Like he's got a really good tempo.
Yeah, I think he's a good player. And so like what he does in the first 4 yards of the line of scrimmage, I think is what separates him. But if you're talking about what would happen if if they all made a guy miss and they got to the second level, then I think the other guys might be just as good, if not better. So, but I think this is especially true at the NFL level. You have to make things happen in the first couple of yards after the carry. Now, I want to ask you a question. Let's say you or DeJuan Gross or Joe Walker is back returning punts on Saturday night. How many yards would you guys have had?
I'd have scored.
Barney should have scored at least twice.
Thank you.
Barney should have scored at least twice.
Thank you. Because people were talking about how many yards he had, and I'm like,
he should have scored twice.
Can I?
But I would have had those yards. That punter kicked it right to him like 4 times.
I have a question. I'm certainly not going to diminish JB because one thing Barney did that I'm not going to say I would have done, or D. Gross wouldn't have said, and certainly not Stalker or Joe Walker. Barney's learning to play hurt early, and I think that's hard. I think that's hard to do as a young player. Like ask DeJuan, and I mean, we just recognized him, as part of the Jet Awards. Obviously, he was great at what he did, and I'm super biased because I love me some me, and I didn't know how to play hurt early. I don't think DeJuan knew how to play hurt early. Joe Feasy or Joe Walker was, you'd see sometimes he'd have those huge spats on his ankle. He had notoriously bad ankles because he would always sprain an ankle.
I remember that.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's hard to play hurt. One of the things I love about Barney is he's 10 times the competitor I was at that same age at that level. So I know he wanted to put that right foot in the ground and cut back to the inside on that long punt return. So it's easy for me to say, oh, I'd have scored.
Yeah.
Because I had the taped hammy against Pacific, and that's a bad football team, right? Mm-hmm. I cut that thing back. It takes 6 weeks for me to cut back on that long run, Sam, and I still scored. That's not me. I mean, that we didn't play a good team. Mm-hmm. So for him to be moving at that high rate of speed and to not really be able to plant push to cut back, I'm not down on him for that, though, because I think he's playing hurt, and I think he's extremely tough. Like, I'm going to give JB the benefit of the doubt there.
And I appreciate that. I just think sometimes we can look at stats and we can say, well, this was this, and that's all true.
I don't want to take anything away. I don't want to take anything from him. And listen, look how they block those gunners. Like those schemes are pretty legit. Yeah. I'm like,
they're really good.
they show you good pre-snap looks, and then they go out and double, and he's creative and they're executing. But I still, it takes, people say it takes 2 to tango. It takes 11 to tango on the return game. I like the tactical side of it. Now the technical part will get better because they just need more reps.
Yeah, I think that the return yards is somewhat about the punter because he kicked it right to him, but also about the way that they schemed it up. And it's, they even dropped the second guy back there a couple of times, to try to figure, because it looked like one time he kicked left and then kicked right, and so I think that the biggest takeaway is that Eckler created a scenario in which they could return the ball without him being touched for 15 yards. And the Akron punter helped, but I think that's to Eckler's credit. And I think it's accurate. So what I was going to say is I know Barney's banged up, and he was still able to return the ball for 92 yards because of the nature of the scheme.
You see how they double those gunners, then they isolate. When you go that shield pump protection, and your gunners don't do work, you're going to get creased.
Yeah.
Good on Eck.
No, and so I thought they did a good job, and that's part of what he's special at doing, is he creates these big returns, and you don't always, you look at Tennessee's numbers and you're like, how in the hell did they do that? Because there's good punters in the SEC, and part of it is that he is just really good at his job.
Yeah.
And he does a really good job. That's one of the things where I think Rule in the hiring process, he's like, this guy's resume and his work that he puts on tape is just so good. Because he could have hired, I think Rule could have hired 20 guys that were good, but I really do feel like they got the best one.
Yeah, I love the fact that Rule went in not wanting to hire him.
Yeah, I think,
you guys kind of bristle at that. I like it because.
No, I don't bristle at it. I totally understand that.
Sometimes you have to go, if you're truly a lifelong learner, sometimes you just have to be uncomfortable when you make those kinds of decisions because it's for the greater good, right?
Because personality-wise, that's probably not his first choice.
Right. Well, I think Rule's been really honest about how Eckler has a level of energy that's Harbaugh'ian. I don't know, Harbaugh.
Listen, it's anti-Northeast. I can tell you that.
That's okay.
Eckler doesn't have a New York state of mind.
Right, and that's good. Did you see? So Van Poppel blocks that field goal, and Eckler is 17 yards out on the field. And Van Poppel knows he's coming. And that thing is what makes. That's what makes that special. That's a single-digit jersey guy who's still trying to, develop as a defensive lineman, who makes probably the second biggest play of his career, the fourth down stop at Illinois a couple of years ago.
Hey, how about him answering the dinner bell?
Right.
You think he didn't hear the whispers?
He hears. But, that play, and then Eckler's out there, that's what young athletes want, is they, the Eckler's coaching style in my opinion, has rounded into what athletes are like today. He has a good athlete.
My man.
Yeah. He has a good affect on today's student athletes. That style, I think, fits the energy of today's athletes. And I like that about I don't know, I think he's probably evolved as a coach, but I think some of the evolution is that it's just come around to this is the guy. I think 15 years ago, Bo was like, hey, stop with the 47-inch vertical. But no, I'm like, today, that 47-inch vertical and the way that he engages the athletes is just terrific. And so I really appreciate the work he's doing. Yeah, it wasn't meant to knock Barney. It was to say that a guy on a bad ankle is able to do that because he's got a heck of a coordinator. And so I don't know if it's going to come up a lot this week because Rule's not going to overdo it after Akron. But I thought the three coordinators all had a really good week against Akron, even relative to the competition.
That's our guy, Sam McKewon, Omaha World Herald. Sam, appreciate the time as always. We'll talk to you next week.
All right, take care.
Thanks, Ed.